Hey guys, it's Andrew from Collective Intelligence, and today I'm going to show you how I DJ inside of Ableton Live. You can see I've got Ableton open in front of me, and I have a controller down here. This controller is a APC40 by AKAI. This is the Mark II version. And this is a controller that I find works really nicely for this application. But you don't need this particular one. I would suggest something that has faders on it, something that has knobs, and something that has buttons to trigger things. And this tutorial will be kind of centered around how this particularly works. If you don't have one, maybe this will inspire you to go out and get one if you think it will work well for you. So we got a blank project, and we're going to be working or dealing with audio. So we're not really going to need the MIDI clips, at least not to start with. We may find a purpose for the MIDI later on down the track. But I will go ahead and delete them. So delete, and we're left with two audio channels. And I'm going to be setting up this template as though it's a 2-channel mixer. And you can set it up to be 4-channel or 8-channel or however many channels you'd like. But for the way that I have been mixing so far, this works really nicely for me. So I'm going to use 4 channels in total, and I'm going to group 2 of them, right? So I'll group these 2 and I'll group these 2, right? So we'll go channel 1 and we'll name this one channel, whoopsie daisy, 2. Whoa. And we'll go blue and we'll go red, and we'll right click and we'll assign the internal track colors the same. We'll go tracks, and then this one can be cues, right? Tracks, cues. Channel 1, channel 2, set up. All right, so I want to come over and grab an EQ3, chuck it on there. And I'm going to be using the EQ3. I'm going to right click it. I'm going to make sure that it's got flat response checked, right? So it doesn't color the sound. I'm going to use an EQ3 on both the channel 1 and the channel 2. Next, I'm going to go ahead and grab the auto filter. Now, I really, really like the sound of Ableton's filters. I did some comparisons the other day with other filters. These really do sound the best so far from what I've heard of. I was using like Volcano by FabFilter, but I found that the audio filter sounded better than them. So yeah, we'll do a high pass and then a low pass, right? And we're going to group all that together in one big rack, right? And we might just quickly delete that, copy the rack, and pop it on the other channel as well. So we've got all of the same parameters. We need to map them, and we need to set them up a little bit, but they're ready to go. And we're also going to need a track to work with here, like a piece of music. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a track that I just finished, a remix that I did, so that we can use something that I can give you a demonstration of how the faders are working and everything. I've pulled the track in here and I've just popped it in. You can see that the AKAI instantly recognizes it on the first channel. If I grabbed it and put it on the second channel, you can see it shows up there as well. So this is how I use it. I use these 3 rows as one channel, and then these 3 rows as second channel, and then these 2 rows are either just spare or one's a recording channel for recording the set, and then one's just a spare. So we got the track in there. We can start by mapping all of these parameters. So we'll right click the low, and we can go edit the MIDI. And I'm going to select it, and then I just wiggle the parameter that I want to control it. So the lows are going to be controlled by this bottom fader here, the mids and the highs, right, respectively. And then we can also control the filters here. So the frequency is going to get controlled by this knob for that first filter. I want to control the resonance as well. And I actually also even want to control the on-off, right? And then the same for this one. Control the on-off, control the frequency, control the resonance. And then I'm going to come into the MIDI mappings and I'm going to have to set up the parameters in particular ways. So what we're looking at here is that the low gain on the EQ goes, when it's at the bottom value, it's negative infinity, right? So no volume should be coming through. That's correct. When it's at maximum though, we want it to be -3, right? And we're going to use -3 for all of them. And that way we're not pushing it all the way to 0. So we just want to avoid clipping it every step of the phase. And then what we're looking at here is the controls for the first filter on this knob. So when the filter is all the way down at the bottom, we want the filter to be open all the way and the resonance to be at -14, right? So we'll just set that. So -14 is the lowest value we want the resonance to ever get to. And then when the resonance is all the way up at maximum open, we don't want it to be at 125%. We want it to be more like, let's say 60% resonance. That could still be too much. We'll check that. And then here, we want to set this so that we want the device to be on when the value is either 1 to 127. But when it's on 0, we want the filter to be off, right? So when that knob is all the way down at the bottom at 0, the device should be switched off. We want the kick and bass to pass through and be powerful and loud. We don't want the filter acting on the track when we don't want to filter anything. So that's how we're going to set that up. Let's test it to make sure that it's right. So I'll just close the MIDI mapping. So I'll grab the knob and I'll put it all the way down again just to reset it, right? So right now, when it's all the way at the bottom, the filter's turned off. And the frequency's at the lowest it can go, which is 26 hertz. And the resonance is sitting at 14%, which is perfect. Then when I start to turn it, first of all of a sudden it just jumps to max. That's not right. That knob's playing up. Yeah, it shouldn't be doing that. So just bear with me a moment. I'm going to turn off the controller, then turn it back on. Okay, so unfortunately it's still doing it. We're just going to move on. So if I just move it, even if it does it right, so it's jumping all the way to maximum volume. But we can see what the filter's doing on the way back down, right? So this is the correct amount of movement. So that looks like a good amount of resonance by the time it gets all the way up, right? So that's cool. It's a pain in the ass that it's jumping, but that's something that we'll either figure out what's going on. Like, I don't think it's it's not a problem with the way it's mapped. I'm pretty certain it's a problem with the controller. This controller's got a few quirks for sure. Next, we'll just make sure that our faders are doing the right thing so we can see that they're moving the mids and the highs. And then we'll go ahead and we'll play the track and we'll listen to the way that the filters sound on it. Right, so it's jumping all the way open, but it's working really nicely. Take the bottoms out, yep. Take the mids out. Take the highs out. And if it wasn't jumping there, it would be working perfectly. So let's just go ahead and go into the MIDI again. Yeah, there's definitely nothing mapped there that makes me instantly realize why it's doing that. So anyway, we'll stop that track before it drops and we'll set up the second filter. So the second filter, we've already mapped everything. We just need to set up the parameters. So this filter by default should sit, we don't want to map that, should sit at all the way open. And the resonance, basically, we're going to have to invert those values, right? So that's going to be 14. And then that's going to be 60. And we'll double check that if that's right or not. We'll pull that down. And we'll pull that down and we'll just have a look. So filters all the way up, right? And that's not correct. So we've done that wrong. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump back in here. Invert the range, turn it around, basically. Try that. Right, so now that's right there. We pull that down Yeah, perfect. So that one is now working as intended as well. And this knob's also jumping around a bit too. Which is not ideal, but again, I don't think it's a problem due to the mapping. In fact, I know, again, it's not a problem due to the mapping. You can see all the mapping here. We're not controlling any parameters that we shouldn't be. We're not doing anything odd. So next what we want to do is we want to jump over to the second channel and we want to set this one up. So again, that one, that one, that one. And then we want the on-off to control that, and that. Sorry, the knob to control the on-off, that and that. Boom, boom, and boom, right? And then we can come in here and we can set up all of those parameters as well. So that's going to be -3. That's going to be -3. That's going to be -3. Device on for channel 1. Device on for channel 2. We're going to set that to be exactly the same as this one. So 1 to 127. That's correct. And that's going to be 14 to 60%. Cool. And then this one is going to be 0 to 126. It's going to be that. And then it's going to be that is the resonance, which will copy this one. So that's 60% and 14%. Let's test all of that. So we'll jump over here. Oh, look, that one's not jumping around all over the show. Oh, yes, it is. Spoke too soon. Cool. All right, so it's not liking it. It doesn't like it when I'm moving it fast. And this could actually have something to do with the where I've plugged it in as well. Sometimes they don't like being plugged in particular plugs. I've plugged this into my keyboard actually. My keyboard's got a USB slot on it. So anyway, that's working as intended. Play the track. Take the bass out. We need to stop it playing over on the first channel, sorry. Yep, bass, mid, tops. Put it all in. Filters working. Filters are working. Stop all clips. Okay, so now what we want to do is I'm just going to turn them off so I don't hear them. I don't want to hear them right now. I just want to play them. And what I want to do is I want to set up a button that toggles between the two. So when I press this button, I want it to select the waveform so I can see where it's playing. And then when I press this button, I want it to select the other channel. Why did it do that? The other channel. So we're going to set up MIDI and we're going to go ahead and say when we press that button, we want it to select the track status, right? And when we press this button, we want it to select the track status. So when we press 1, we can see the first channel, we can see where the track's playing. Where we press on the second one, we can see where that track's playing, right? That's perfect. Next, what I want to do as well is I want to set up some more features. I want to go into the MIDI, and on channel 1, I want to select these nudge buttons, right? So I want to fast forward or rewind there if I'm on the first channel, and then I want to come to the second channel. Right, so depending on which channel I'm on, will dictate. So if I go, did I play them at the same time? Yeah, so they're both at the same time in their playheads, right? If I nudge that one along, it's going to move it along, right? But it's only going to move whichever channel I've got selected. So when I've got channel 2 selected and I press nudge, it moves that one, but the other one doesn't get nudged along, even though it's the same button controlling it, right? So I can nudge them independently. And whatever I set the quantization to will be how far it nudges it, right? So now it's nudging by 4 bars, and I'm going to keep the quantization set to 4 bars. So if I press stop and stop all the clips, we'll activate it so that we can see it waited 4 bars before it stopped. I'm going to press that. I'm going to press play. I'm going to wait. Starts playing. If I press play, it's going to start playing at the end of 4 bars. There, right? If I stop the first channel, it's going to wait until the end of 4 bars. Right? So we've got it locked into that quantization. And that works really nicely because we have time where we compress something that we can go back and stop the action that we just made. But we also know, like, when I'm getting toward, let's say I'm playing this track and I'm getting towards the 9th bar, and I know that I want this second track to start playing right on the 9th bar, I've got this entire period of time where I can trigger the track and then it won't actually start playing until now, right? So it's like a jigsaw puzzle. I feel like everything just locks into place and it's really nice. It works really well. So I've got the nudge controls. I've got all my EQs and everything set up. I've got the tracks set in here. We haven't warped the tracks properly yet, or we haven't prepared the tracks properly, so we'll be showing you how to do that in the next episode. We're going to be setting up some effects as well, so you can do some interesting things. But that is the basic template setup to start with. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back next week with the next episode. Peace.